Breaking news, the Nikon Z8 has leaked, the Sony A9 Mark III has leaked, and launching tomorrow, the DJI Mavic 3 Pro has leaked. I'll tell you all about all of these, but first I want to thank our sponsor, Adorama. Adorama is our favorite camera store, drone store, lighting store, tripod store, because they really understand creators. They have stuff in stock with quick and free shipping. And a lot of cameras and stuff, you can get it with a bunch of free accessories that no other store offers. You also get VIP points back, which is just literally cash back in your pocket. So every time you spend, you're also saving money. Adorama has something cool happening right now, the Sony Alpha Spring Savings Event with up to $600 of an instant rebate on a lot of Sony camera gear. And my favorite discount here, you can get the Sony a7 II, a full frame camera with a lens and a memory card, basically a ready to shoot setup from Adorama at this link up here for under $1,000. Or if you're looking for a little more powerful full frame camera, something beautiful, something portable, the Sony a7C is perfect for that for under $1,600. That's about $200 cheaper than I've ever seen it. So jump on these deals real quick because they're bound to sell out. And whenever you shop for camera gear, be sure to use our link to visit Adorama. That lets them know that you heard about it from us, and that makes these sort of unbiased photography news and reviews possible. Thank you, Adorama. First up, the ready to launch DJI Mavic 3 Pro, my personal drone, which we use for all the establishing shots, the moving shots. I just sold a very large professional fine art print to someone for well over $1,000, all taken with my Mavic 3, the original 2-camera one. This one's higher end, and I'm going to immediately buy it from Adorama using sdp.io/drone link here. It's more powerful because it has 3 separate lenses instead of just 2. My current one has a wide 24mm lens and then a super telephoto 170mm lens. This new one has that same wide angle lens, which is very high quality, works well even in low light. The telephoto lens is carried over too, and it's supposed to be improved, and that's much needed, because right now that telephoto lens, I've never used it for anything practical. I think it's pretty much just for spying on people. The quality has been low, but the new lens is supposed to be improved. So subscribe, and as soon as the production drones are launched, we will review it and tell you just how much better it is. But they're adding a third lens, a very important lens, a medium telephoto, a 70mm lens that the rumors say will have 48 megapixels. Now, that's probably one of those quad pixel things that don't quite give you as much detail as you might hope for, but it always does give you a little bit of detail. And for things like those big fine art prints, I really do want that. The 70mm focal length would also be really useful too. Like, I crashed my previous Mavic 3 drone in a huge disaster. I was tracking our car going down the road, and I thought I was well above the tree line, but guess what? Trees can jump. It jumped like 20 feet in the air and snatched my drone out of the air. What I needed was just more working distance. I needed to fill the frame with the car, but, well, once in a while you find a tree that's a little bit unusually tall, and it completely destroyed my drone. I couldn't use the 160mm drone. I would have been too high up. The 70mm drone provides a good medium distance, giving you more working distance, allowing you to be more safe in potentially dangerous situations, and that would have saved me that crash, and that's reason enough for me to want to upgrade. The battery life is supposed to actually be a little bit worse. They're saying it's going to be 43 minutes instead of 46 minutes, and both those numbers are pretty much nonsense because in practice, I get about 30 minutes because you're not just hovering, you're actively flying, but also the drone forces you to come home when you have about a third of a battery left because it actually becomes less and less powerful and you won't be able to maneuver in the same way. Here's the different model numbers and prices. The Mavic 3 Pro will be available with or without a remote controller. I'll buy it without because I already have a nice RC Pro remote controller. And that base model will be about €1,800, probably $1,500 or so. And that maps pretty closely to the existing Mavic 3. So I think this one might come down in price some. They're also going to offer a Fly More combo, which will be about €1,200 more. And usually that includes multiple different batteries that you might need if you're doing a long outing, as well as some extra props and a bag and some other nice to haves. The top end model is the Mavic 3 Pro Cine, which, like the Mavic 3 Cine, offers ProRes compatibility. You might need it if you're integrating your drone footage into the footage of other filmmakers just for workflow purposes. That top-end drone also adds a 1 terabyte SSD, which means you don't have to use a separate memory card, but it also allows you to transfer files much faster. These DJI rumors are brought to you by Quadro News, Deals Drone, and DroneDJ.com. Now on to the Nikon Z8. These rumors come from NikonRumors.com. The Z8 has been rumored for a long time, but it's finally happening. There is a teaser campaign that should be starting in just the next couple of days, and Nikon is going to be having an event for influencers in Dubai near the end of May. Here's the latest rumors for the Nikon Z8. They're saying it's going to be the same form factor as the Z6 and Z7, like this body. I hope that's not true, because the Z8 is supposed to be an evolution of the D850. That's what the 8 means. And the D850 was the greatest DSLR of all time. And one big factor in that is just how great it felt in the hands. This fit my hand so perfectly. Look, all my fingers here have a nice, good grip. It's the perfect size for holding on to big telephoto lenses. So I hope they actually captured the slightly bigger form factor without going huge like they did with the Nikon Z9. If you do want that big form factor, a vertical grip is supposed to be available for it. It's rumored to have the same sensor as the Nikon Z9, a Sony sensor with very fast readout speed and 45 megapixels, and I think that's good news. That provides you an excellent silent shutter for high-speed photography, things like golf and wildlife, where silence is important, without any particularly noticeable rolling shutter. But I do hope that along with that sensor, Nikon gives it a mechanical shutter. Those of us who work in the studio with strobes really need higher sync speeds for some situations. My Sony Alpha 1 has a 1/400th sync speed. My Z9, almost the same price, has a 1/200th sync speed. Actually worse than like Nikon D3300. So that mechanical shutter is important, Nikon. The viewfinder is supposed to be improved even over the Nikon Z9. It should be 9 million dots, which is basically a 9 megapixel viewfinder. The top-end Sony cameras like the Alpha 1 have a 9 million dot viewfinder. It's probably the same EVF, and it looks just gorgeous. It's like better than real life, and especially for things like wildlife photography where so much of the experience is enjoying it. That would make a big difference, because right now I still prefer the optical viewfinder of the Nikon D850 over something like the Z9 with a fairly low res viewfinder. Nikon Rumors is saying it's going to have better autofocus with telephoto lenses, and this feels like Nikon has been listening, which makes me really happy, because the Nikon Z9, especially in the beginning, really struggled with telephoto lenses. But over the course of many firmware updates, I found it's gotten much better. And just yesterday, I was using it to photograph eagles and osprey, and it did a pretty good job. All those firmware updates have been coming together. It's not perfect. It's not a Sony A1 yet, but it is much better at tracking moving subjects and getting great results. And if the Z8 is even better, I would probably buy it for myself. Like the Nikon Z9, it's supposed to offer 8K at 60 frames per second, and I hope they will save those files in a more useful format, because right now it's in a RAW format that requires some specialized software, like it doesn't necessarily work with Final Cut straight out of the box. So if you could just give that to me in an MP4 or something, I would love to use that. I debate whether it will have a tilting screen like the D850 or a flip forward screen, which most creators nowadays seem to want, because most people nowadays are hybrid shooters. And I bet Nikon will keep the tilting screen on the Z9 series of cameras, but give us a flip screen on the Z8. Because the nice thing about the Z8 was it was multi-purpose and hybrid, so that's my best guess. Nikon Rumors is saying the price point is going to be about 4,500 euro, which would mean about the same price as a Canon R5, about $3,900 US. And I think if that's the case, if they can provide all of this at the price point of an R5, it will blow away Canon. And in fact, I bet it would be the Sony a7 R5. But to be sure, of course, we'll buy our copy from Adorama and review it. So subscribe to see that upcoming review. It's supposed to ship in late May or early June, so just about a month from now, and I just can't wait to see it. In the meantime, though, I found a great deal on Adorama. They are selling the Z7 Mark II for only $2,600, and that's with a bunch of accessories, including a 128 gig memory card. Now, the Z7 series of cameras, when it launched, I think it was $3,200 or $3,400. That puts it at the same price as the 24 megapixel Canon R6 Mark II. But this is 45 megapixels, and they're beautiful megapixels. So if I were shooting portraits, if I were shooting landscapes, I would totally pick this Z7 Mark II right here over the Canon R6 Mark II or even the Sony A7 IV with only 33 megapixels. Moving on to Sony news. One of the biggest drawbacks of the entire Sony Alpha lineup is their choice of memory card formats. The recent cameras support SD cards, which are incredibly slow and buffer a lot, and CF Express Type A cards. CF Express Type A cards are small, but in every other way they are vastly inferior to the CF Express Type B cards that Canon and Nikon have chosen. How inferior? Well, they are more than twice the price for less than half the speed. Angelbird has launched a new series of CF Express Type A cards, starting with their 1 terabyte card. It's a little bit faster, which is good, and it's only $500. So as soon as I saw this, I went to this link here at Adorama, and I ordered 4 of them. I'm going to put 2 in my A1 and 2 in Chelsea's A1, and we will have tons of storage. We won't be running out of space like we have been. Now, onto the leaked Sony A9 Mark III, coming from SonyAlphaRumors.com. They're saying that it's going to have the same 24 megapixel sensor, and there's not a lot more detail, but I do think that it's going to be a refresh over the A9 Mark II, and we'll see the same improvements that they put in their other lineups, which means the entire new menu system, better electronic viewfinder, support for their new Creator app. I hope a faster readout speed to reduce the impact of flickering lights. This is a sports camera. The A9 Mark II did 20 frames per second, but to compete with cameras like the Canon R3, which can do over 100 frames per second in some scenarios, I think Sony's going to have to really crank it up. So I think we're going to see at least 40 or 50 frames per second. I also think they'll give it the new 9 million dot electronic viewfinder, which is particularly useful with faraway subjects. And I've been debating whether they'll have a tilt screen on it or a flip screen like the Sony A7 IV or A7R IV. I think because they consider it to be a specialized pro sports body, it'll probably have the same tilt screen. Subscribe to see our reviews of all that upcoming gear. And whenever you go shopping for any kind of gear, whether it's a camera, lens, tripod, drone, whatever, head to sdp.io/Adorama. When you shop at Adorama, you know you have the best odds of finding stuff in stock, shipped quickly, and usually free. You know Adorama is going to throw in some free accessories for you, and you'll get VIP points back. That is cash back in your pocket the next time you buy something. I'm totally loyal. I'm a member of their VIP program. I'm getting the little Adorama credit card so I can get even more money back. I'm all in with Adorama because Adorama is all in for creators like us, for photographers, for videographers. That's all they do. Okay? You cannot go buy cereal or luggage from Adorama because they specialize. They know our business. They can answer your questions knowledgeably. That is why I choose to shop at Adorama, and I think you should too. If you have any thoughts about any of this new gear, write a comment down below. See ya. Bye.